This is Jonah chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, part 2. And the people of Nineveh believed God. They called for a fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them to the least of them. The word reached the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, removed his robe, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat in ashes. Now, why did the people of Nineveh overwhelmingly respond in a positive way to Jonah's message from God? Well, some people believe that God actually used Jonah's experience with the great fish as a means to help convince them of his message. Some believe that there's a good chance that Jonah had eyewitnesses who would have seen him being vomited onto the Mediterranean shore with a great fish. Crowds would have gathered around him and would have carried their eyewitness accounts to Nineveh along with Jonah. Perhaps Jonah even had some physical abnormalities from the fish, such as bleached skin or something of that nature. According to ancient historians, there was the ancient Near Eastern tradition of Dagon, the sea monster god, whom the Assyrians called Oannes. And by the way, Nineveh was an Assyrian city. Now, Oannes was said to have come to the people and taught them about creation and all of the divine wisdom they needed to know. Now, interestingly, Oannes is almost spelled and pronounced identically with Ioannes, the Greek name meaning John, which in Hebrew is Jonah. When Nineveh was finally discovered and excavated by archaeologists back in the 1700s, it was found between two ancient tells. Now, ancient tells are ancient cities that were periodically updated by building the newer part of the city on top of the older part, and then years later these abandoned cities became large mounds of dirt. Well, anyway, one of these tells had the local name Nabi Yunus, which in Arabic means the prophet Jonah. So, was this Assyrian tradition of Oannes developed from an original visit by Jonah? Maybe and maybe not. But whatever the means God used through Jonah, it was God who somehow convinced them about himself. The people in verses 5 and 6 are described as repenting and seeking God. And Jesus indicates that their repentance was authentic. You can find that in Matthew chapter 12, verse 41. God uses all kinds of different ways to convince people about himself. What's one way you've seen God do this? As you meditate on this passage, I want you to think about how God convinces people about himself. Think about that throughout your day. And as you respond in prayer to this passage, tell God that you like how he convinces people about himself. This is praise. And ask God to help you to trust in him to convince people about himself instead of trusting in your own persuasive efforts. And step out in faith. Be watchful and willing today to let God use you to speak on his behalf with enthusiasm. But relax. Pray for the person you're talking with and trust in God to do the convincing within the person that you're talking with.